What is up, ninjas? My name is Sam World, and today we're going to be talking about the chorus. Now, I'm currently reviewing a lot of the old effects that I learned about back in the day, just to kind of see if I can use them more often, because I find myself, I don't really use chorus that much. Now, as I was doing that, I was like, why not make a video on it? As you guys know, if you teach someone something, that information sort of like sticks to you a little bit more, like you understand it as you teach it. So that helps a lot with me with having this YouTube channel. So today, guys, we're going to be talking about how a chorus works and how you're going to be applying it to sounds and why you would want to apply it to sounds, so that you can also learn how to use it and learn when to use it when you're trying to achieve a result. Now, a chorus effect is meant to emulate something that happens in real life when, let's say, a bunch of people get together and they pray to the Ableton gods. Ableton, Lord Almighty. So today I will be explaining chorus. So if you didn't learn about it and you just know it as that one effect that makes stuff sound like you're detuning, then now you're going to be able to touch up on that. And if you want to review with me, go ahead as well. You can explain it to me as I'm doing, like, yo, set. But other than that, guys, if you want to support my channel, make sure to head over to evosounds.com, where you can find all my sound design work. Soundbanks support my family. It supports me. It's the reason why I can drink this monster to get hyped. And let's get straight into this tutorial. All right, guys, and welcome inside of Ableton. Now for this, we're obviously going to use the Ableton Chorus effect. I feel like if you have a good understanding of this, you should be able to use any chorus effect out there. The difference is going to be in the amount of voices that chorus is going to give you access to, as well as other modulation opportunities. But if you understand the main basics of a chorus and what you can do with it, you should be good to go. Now, the chorus effect is pretty simple, guys, and it's going to work like this. We're going to have a saw coming from Serum, just to use as an example for this. I mean, essentially what's going to happen is Serum is going to produce a saw sound source, and then it's going to go into our chorus. The chorus in Ableton is going to duplicate it twice. Okay, so that's where we have a delay 1 and a delay 2. Now, below that, we're going to have that sound source get essentially delayed by a couple of milliseconds, and the amount of that you're going to control here with this slider. You can have them linked together. However, you can also do different delayed versions. So you have one being at 319 milliseconds and one at 494 milliseconds. Okay. The reason, as I explained in the beginning of the video, is that a chorus effect is created by sounds that sound similar pitch, but are delayed a bit. That creates a sort of shimmering effect. Now, if I play this right now, you're going to hear the saw. Sounds a bit like I just added 3 voices and detuned a bit. However, the chorus is going to have definitely a characteristic of its own. So if that's more of a gritty kind of effect you're looking for, the chorus is a good bet for that. Now, above our first delay, we're going to find a high pass, and that's actually going to high pass the first duplicate sound source that we've created with the chorus. So if we turn this delay off, you can see that this is the sound that's going to get layered on top of our sound if we have the dry and wet at 50%. So essentially, we're applying a high pass to that, and this is super cool. The main reason is that if you have a low end and you don't want to mess up your low end response, you want it to stay mono, but you still want that high end to have more of a stereo response, then the high pass is great for that. We can set this to around maybe 250 hertz. That way we can hit that chorus and not mess up our low end response. To the right of that, we're going to have our delay 2. And then here you're going to notice that we have a fix and a mod. Now, by default, the first delay will get modulated no matter what by this X and Y controller here, which is going to go pretty much going up. It's going to increase the amount, and going left to right increases the rate or decreases the rate. Okay, so this is going to be playing a huge role, and we'll talk a little bit about that. However, in delay 2, again, you can set a fixed mode so that it doesn't get modulated, or you can set mod mode, which actually allows this to be modulated as well. Pretty simple, as you guys can see, and it does give us kind of like a more grittier sound to it. Now, to the right of that, you're going to find the modulation area, which you can control with the XY controller, or you can just set the amount here and your rate here if you don't care about the display. Now, essentially, what's going to happen here, guys, is the amount is going to control, obviously, how much we're going to be modulating these two guys by. To the right of that, we're going to have obviously our dry and wet, and that's just going to be essentially the volume between the wet signal and the dry signal. So obviously you still want your original source to be present. However, if you just want to create a layer, this is also a good way to do it. Above that, we have a feedback, which is essentially doing a feedback. What that means is that we're grabbing this sound source and we're feeding it back into the chorus. At very high values, this is going to create some really cool results with very low amount and rate values. Now, when we have that added and we just lower the dry and wet, we can create a nice sort of bass with it. You can see it creates a very nice talking bass if that's what you're going after. You can also distort this sound signal to get a little bit of a better vibe. But that's what the feedback allows. It can also make voices sound a little bit more metallic and a little bit like they're speaking to you from another world. Now, above of that, we have our polarity. Now, polarity is pretty simple, guys. It's just, let's say you have a control or like you have a battery voltage. When you inverse the plus and the minus, essentially you're doing a polarity change. In this scenario, though, it just changes the way it's going to sound like when you have very extreme values of feedback, low delay times. And that's what it's going to do. So you're going to be able to change the polarity, which in essence just changes the sound of that feedback that you are creating, that flange kind of effect to the sound. With that being said there, guys, let's start to put the chorus into use. Let's actually be practical about it and see what we can do with the chorus. So for the first example, guys, we actually have an analog sound. And with a lot of these sounds that you create utilizing modeled VST synth plugins, essentially they're going to give you a mono response. You can definitely get more of a stereo response if you want, like setting unison and detuning here. But essentially I'm using this sort of like, again, as a mono synth, like how the original would have sounded like. So if I want to add a bit of width to this lead here that we have in this track, okay. As you can hear, the lead is just a bit mono and it sounds fine, but I feel like the whole track itself is very mystical. So if I wanted to detune this guy or add a bit of width, I wouldn't be able to go in here and do it in any way or form. So this is where the chorus can actually come in and play a huge role. Now there is a chorus effect inside the Prophet beat right here that I utilize, and it works similar to the one in Ableton. However, I find this one sounds a little better, but we are going to be using Ableton to dial this in as well. So the first thing I got to do is I'm going to hear the sound. I always like to put the dry and wet all the way up so I can hear the sound that is being layered on top of the original sound source. Because remember, the dry and wet is controlling the volume between the fully wet signal and your dry signal. Essentially, it's making the effect a lot more apparent. So what I'm going to do is lower this high pass down a bit more, as the sound is going to be more mid-heavy. Now notice as I apply the chorus on it, it sort of like numbs the highs a bit, and it also makes it sound a little bit more mellow. It gives it a bit of another layer that is getting, again, essentially detuned and delayed a bit. So in this scenario, we can use the chorus to kind of mellow the lead out a bit, as well as provide a more detuned and a little bit of a stereo response to it as well. Now, I chose to get rid of delay too. If I want to bring it back in, I can just set it there, modulate it as well. So the way I use the chorus here, it actually makes the sound a little bit more like a flute instead of a triangle hitting hard. It's mellowing it out and it's giving it a little bit of that nice sort of mystical vibe that I want for this track. I don't want the lead to be too punchy. I want it to essentially mesh with everything else, and the chorus provides a good basis for that. Now, the way we're going to add chorus to this vocal, guys, is utilizing a return track. And the reason we want that is because, as you guys know, if we put this on the channel and we have our dry and wet moving, we're essentially lowering the volume from the dry signal, which is not what we want with vocals. We always want vocals to be in front of the mix. So as we add chorus, it's going to actually push it back and we're going to get more of that wet signal. Now, the other good thing about adding the chorus on a return is the fact that you're going to be able to create width on the vocal and still have that vocal remain mono and then have a stereo version of it. And this is way better than, again, utilizing a Haas effect or an S1 imager directly on the vocal. So I'm going to route it to my E channel, which is going to be my return, and I'm going to have the vocal go there.
Ooh, something's taking over me. Girl, you know I can't breathe. Oh, you're taking over me.
And let's just hear it out.
Just take me to infinity. 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 Infinity, 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 infinity. Just take me to infinity.
Now, if I get rid of that chorus there, just so you can see what it sounds like with it.
Just take me to infinity. Just take me to infinity.
So you can use that to add a bit of width as well as that nice little chorus effect to it. So that way, once we hear it now from the beginning,
something's taking over me. Girl, you know I can't breathe. Oh, you're taking over me. Just take me to infinity. 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 Just take me to infinity.
Okay, so I know the vocal gets a bit lost. This is an old track of mine. I never really mixed it properly, leveled it. But you can kind of see what it does to the vocal. It creates a bit of width. You can also create a bit of a...
Ooh, something's taking over me.
a little bit of a demonic voice if you push it really hard.
Ooh, something's taking over.
If that's what you're into. But again, the chorus is going to be used more leniently in order to create width to the vocal as well as add this sort of nice kind of choir effect to it.
Ooh, something's taking over me.
Let's see again.
Girl, you know I can't breathe. Oh, you're taking over me.
Okay, now if I add the chorus again on the channel, what's going to happen is that the original source is going to get pushed more to the back and we're going to get more of that stereo source if we have it at 50%.
Ooh, something's taking over me. Ooh, something's taking over me.
I personally do not like the sound of that, so that's why I recommend you guys put them in a return channel. Another popular thing to apply chorus to is going to be guitars. And here we're going to have this guitar, guys. I'll play the unaffected one. Now, if you add chorus to this, you're going to get more of like that rock from the 80s, I want to say. Like, very nice kind of mellow vibe to it. Now, if we turn on the guitar, again, we want a very subtle effect with it. We don't really want to overdo it. So now if we hear it, now, I personally do not like to use the chorus on a guitar for this track just because it makes it sound a little bit too like hippie-ish for me. But again, that's another option where you can apply a chorus where you would want to do it. Another cool way to essentially create a return, let's say you're the type that doesn't like to have all these damn return tracks set up there, is that you can utilize essentially an audio effect rack where you're going to have create a chain and create another one. You're gonna have the original sound source here, and then you're gonna have your chorus here. That way we can put the chorus in here, have it at 100%, and then control the volume. To me, that sounds a lot better when we utilize an audio effect rack and we are careful with the chorus and it's being added more as a return style rather than directly on top of the guitar. Now, the last way to use chorus, guys, is actually going to be more of an experimental way. And I always say that because the results will vary. I here have a vocal of mine that's going to sound like this. Bring down the fucking house. Bring down the fucking house. Now, if we apply a bit of chorus to that with maybe let's do a high wet and a high feedback. If you guys remember, this is going to create more of a metallic vibe to our sound. From here, we play with delay values, but that's going to give us something that I'm sure a lot of you guys that like some of the harder stuff like hybrid trap, stuff like that, rhythm or whatever, have heard a lot. Bring down the fucking house. That might be a bit too so let's decrease the rate and the amount. Bring down the fucking house. And let's play around with these values. Bring down the fucking house. 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 And you're going to get more of a vocal that sounds sort of this way. Now we can lower maybe the transposition a bit.
Bring down the fucking house.
And you get more of this kind of metallic vibe to the vocal. You can definitely get crazier with it and just play around.
Bring down the fucking house.
Put the drum where that fits.
Bring down the fucking house. Bring down the fucking house.
And there we go. We get something that sounds kind of robotic in a way. You can definitely increase the drive more.
Bring down the fucking house.
You can also use the same thing on sounds if that's what you want to do. We're just going to mono that down so it's not so wide. Again, the chorus is going to do that, but we're just going to put a mono. Let's apply here. We're going to reverse the polarity. I'm sure if you put like wubs through it too, you could get some really cool stuff with it. It's going to be good for like these kind of effects as well if we do like... if we put like maybe like a bit of... Let's get rid of the mono. So that's how you're going to use the chorus and how you can apply it to certain elements in your track. Keep in mind that I didn't go over other stuff like putting it on snares, claps, hats. You can put it on almost anything as long as it's giving you the desired effect. It's a great way to add width, add a bit of a detunement vibe, create more voices for a sound that is mono, like a vocal that you would be hard to kind of do yourself. But other than that, guys, hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. Hopefully use it in your next song, and I'll catch you guys next time. As always, if you want to support my channel, make sure to head over to evilsounds.com, support my sound design work, and you guys have a great rest of your day.